For most of the last 50 years, if you walked onto the largest open-pit mines on Earth, you saw one color: yellow. Caterpillar, yellow. At their peak, Caterpillar haul trucks moved more rock and ore than any fleet from any manufacturer in any country. More than 400 of the 797 series trucks were running at mines on 5 continents. The iron from Illinois was the standard. Then Asia showed up. And within 20 years, more than half the ultra-class haul trucks at the biggest mines in the world were no longer American. Until you look at what happened, it sounds impossible. To understand how Caterpillar lost its grip on the mining truck industry, you have to understand how they built it in the first place. Because Caterpillar did not simply compete in the ultra-class haul truck market. They invented it. In the late 1960s, the mining world was still hauling with trucks built by companies that had roots in on-highway transport. The rigs were big, sure, but they were not purpose-built for the pit. They overheated on long grades. They chewed through tires. The frames cracked. Caterpillar saw the gap. They were already the dominant force in earth moving with their dozers and loaders and scrapers. They understood dirt. They understood weight. And in 1977, they introduced the 789, their first serious ultra-class mining truck. That truck changed things. It could carry 177 tons of payload. It was built from the ground up for open-pit conditions, and it came backed by a dealer network that already serviced every major mine on the planet. The frame was designed for the kind of punishment that no highway truck could survive. The suspension was tuned for haul roads that would shake a lesser machine apart in 6 months. The drivetrain was engineered to pull loaded grades in temperatures that ranged from -40 in northern Canada to 120 degrees in the Australian outback. Caterpillar was not selling a truck. They were selling a system. The truck, the maintenance, the parts, supply chain, the operator training, and the financing. All from one source. And when a mining company signed with Cat, they were buying reliability backed by the deepest parts network in the industry. Then came the 793 in 1991 and the 797 in 1998. The 797 was a beast. 360 tons of payload capacity. A frame designed to survive the worst haul roads a copper mine in Chile could throw at it. Power from a massive Cat diesel, turning out over 3,500 horsepower. When the 797 rolled off the line, there was nothing else like it in production. Through the late 1990s and into the 2000s, the Caterpillar mining segment became the crown jewel of the whole corporation. It generated higher margins than the construction division. It generated higher margins than the power systems division. Mining was where Caterpillar made its real money. And the trucks were the center of that business. Every iron ore operation in the Pilbara region of Australia, every copper mine in Chile, every gold mine in Nevada, every coal mine in the Powder River Basin. Yellow iron moving the earth. The dealer network was the moat. Caterpillar dealers had warehouses within driving distance of every major mine. If a 793 went down at 3 in the morning, a technician was rolling inside of hours. Parts availability was measured in same day, not same week. And the cost of a truck sitting idle in a mine that runs around the clock was measured in tens of thousands of dollars per hour. So, the mining companies paid a premium for Cat iron because the uptime was worth it. By 2005, the global mining boom was in full swing. Iron ore prices were surging on Chinese demand. Copper, gold, and coal were all riding high. Caterpillar was printing money. And then the first cracks started to show. Not in the trucks, in the contracts. The first real shift came from a company that had been building mining trucks for decades, but had never seriously threatened Caterpillar at the top of the market. Komatsu. The Japanese manufacturer had been producing the HD 785 series for years. It was a solid truck, reliable, well-built. It ran in mines across Japan and Southeast Asia, but it had never cracked the inner circle of the largest mines in Australia, South America, and North America, where Caterpillar and its trucks held court. That changed in the 2000s. Komatsu had been watching the commodity supercycle build, and they made a strategic decision. They were not going to stay in the mid-tier. They were going after the top of the market. Komatsu introduced the 930E. This was not a mid-tier truck trying to play in the ultra-class. The 930E was a 320-ton class machine, designed from the start to go head-to-head with the 797. It ran an electric drive system, it delivered comparable payload capacity, and it came with Komatsu's own diesel power plant that the company had been refining for decades. And Komatsu priced it to win, Not by being cheap, by being just enough, less expensive, that the total cost of ownership over a 10 to 15-year fleet cycle tipped the spreadsheet. At the same time, Hitachi was pushing its EH-series trucks. The EH-5000, a rear dump haul truck in the 300-ton class, started showing up at mining operations that had been exclusive Cat territory for decades. And a few years later, Hyundai entered the space, signaling that the Korean heavy equipment industry saw mining trucks as a growth market worth investing billions into. The timeline tells the story. In the Pilbara iron ore region, Rio Tinto started evaluating Komatsu trucks for their autonomous haulage program in the early 2010s. BHP, the other giant in the Pilbara, started running mixed fleets. By 2015, Komatsu 930E trucks were a common sight on haul roads that had been exclusively Cat for more than 20 years. In South America, the story played out at the biggest copper mines on the planet. Codelco, the Chilean state mining company, began transitioning portions of their fleet. The Carajás mine in Brazil, one of the largest iron ore operations on Earth, operated by Vale, also brought in Komatsu and Hitachi iron alongside their existing Cat trucks. In Nevada, Newmont gold operations started running mixed fleets as well. This was not a niche shift. This was the largest mining operations in the world, the ones that move the most tons per year, the ones with the biggest budgets and the most sophisticated procurement teams, choosing to move away from Caterpillar exclusivity. And they all did it within the span of about 15 years. These are companies that plan fleet purchases a decade in advance. They do not make emotional decisions. They do not chase trends. When Rio Tinto, BHP, Vale, and Codelco all independently started diversifying their fleets away from Cat dominance, it was not a coincidence. It was a signal that the competitive math had fundamentally changed. So why? If Caterpillar built the standard, if the dealer network was the moat, if the 797 was the truck nobody could match, why did mining companies start writing purchase orders for Komatsu and Hitachi? 3 reasons. And every single one comes down to money. The first reason is the one that decides every fleet purchase in mining. Cost per ton moved. That is the number. Not the sticker price of the truck, not the horsepower, not the brand on the hood. The mining companies that buy these trucks operate on a single metric above all others, and that metric is what it costs to move 1 ton of material from the loading face to the dump point. That includes fuel, tires, maintenance, operator wages, and the purchase price of the truck amortized over its working life. Komatsu came in and offered trucks that matched Cat on availability, meaning the percentage of scheduled hours the truck is actually running, while undercutting Cat on acquisition cost. The 930E was not a cheap truck, but relative to the 797, the math was better. And in mining, you do not buy with your heart. You buy with a spreadsheet. When the procurement teams at Rio Tinto and BHP ran the numbers, the cost per ton moved on, a Komatsu fleet came in lower. Not by a massive margin, but at the scale these mines operate, even a few cents per ton adds up to millions over a fleet cycle. The second reason is autonomy. And this is where Komatsu did something Caterpillar never expected. Komatsu developed its frontrunner autonomous haulage system and deployed it commercially at Rio Tinto operations in the Pilbara starting in the early to mid-2010s. This was not a demonstration or a pilot. This was full production, autonomous haulage. Trucks running loaded at speed on haul roads with no driver in the cab. The men who used to sit behind the wheel were now sitting in a control room hundreds of miles away. The system managed the dispatch, the speed, the spacing, the dumping. It ran around the clock, without shift changes, without fatigue, without the variability that comes with human operators on a 12-hour rotation. Caterpillar had autonomous technology in development. They had been working on it for years. Their engineers knew the technology. They had prototype systems running in test environments, but Komatsu got to production deployment first at the largest iron ore mines in the world. And in mining, being first to deploy at scale is not just a bragging right. It is a structural advantage that compounds over time. That mattered enormously. Because once a mine switches its fleet to autonomous operation on one platform, the switching cost to change platforms is staggering. You are not just changing trucks. You are changing the entire mine management system, the communications infrastructure, the dispatch software, the safety protocols, everything. Komatsu locked in those contracts, not just with trucks. but with an entire operating system. And once you are locked in, you stay locked in. The third reason is dealer and service proximity. Caterpillar built its reputation on the best dealer network in heavy equipment. And in construction, that network is still unmatched. But in mining, the competitive picture changed. Komatsu and Hitachi built dedicated mining service operations in Australia, Chile, and Brazil. They placed technicians and parts depots near the mines that mattered most. They invested in relationships with the maintenance teams at those specific operations. They did not try to out-distribute CAT across every market. They concentrated their resources at the 20 or 30 largest mines in the world, the mines that buy the most trucks, and they matched CAT on service at those locations. For a mining company spending hundreds of millions on haul trucks over a decade, the question was no longer whether the Komatsu dealer could match the CAT dealer everywhere. The question was whether the Komatsu support team at their specific mine could keep the fleet running. And the answer, increasingly, was yes. If you are watching this and you work in the industry, or you just respect the engineering behind these machines, consider subscribing. We cover the trucks, the mines, and the people who run them every week. Now let me tell you what this looked like from the ground. Think about a haul truck driver who spent 15 years behind the wheel of a 793 at a major iron ore operation in the Pilbara. He knew that truck. He knew how it handled loaded on a 10% grade in 40-degree heat. He knew the feel of the retarder on a long downhill run. He knew exactly how much room he had when he backed into the loading face with a 400-ton excavator swinging a bucket over his cab. Then the company announced the transition. New trucks were coming. Komatsu 930E units. The specs on paper looked similar. The payload was in the same class. The power was comparable, but everything in the cab was different. The controls were laid out differently. The visibility was different. The way the truck responded on a loaded haul was different. After 15 years of muscle memory in a CAT, every shift in that new truck felt unfamiliar. And then came the second wave, the autonomous rollout. Now the driver was not getting a new truck. He was getting a new job. He was moving out of the cab entirely, relocated to a control center where he monitored multiple trucks on screens. The haul road he had driven 10,000 times was now something he watched from a chair in an air-conditioned room. The skill he had built over 15 years, the ability to read the road, feel the load, manage the grade, that skill was being replaced by software. The men who ran those trucks did not resist the change because they were afraid of technology. They resisted because they understood that the switch was not just about trucks. It was about an entire way of operating a mine. And once the switch was made, there was no going back. The cat iron that had defined their working lives was being loaded onto lowboys and shipped out. Some of those 793s and 797s went to smaller operations in Africa and Central Asia. Some were parked, some were scrapped, but they were gone from the pits where they had run for years, replaced by machines with different names on the hood and different software in the belly. That scene played out at mine after mine, across the Pilbara, across Chile, across Brazil, not overnight, over a decade, slowly, fleet by fleet, contract by contract. The yellow iron gave way to mixed fleets, and then, at some operations, to predominantly Komatsu or Hitachi fleets. For the haul truck drivers who lived through it, the transition was not a headline. It was personal. It was the machine they trusted being replaced by one they did not know, and then both machines being replaced by software that did not need them at all. So, where does that leave Caterpillar in 2026? The honest answer is complicated. Caterpillar has not disappeared from mining. They are still one of the two largest manufacturers of ultra-class haul trucks on Earth. The 797F is still in production. The 793F is still one of the most widely deployed mining trucks globally. CAT trucks are still running at mines on every continent. The brand still commands respect among the people who maintain and operate these machines. But the days of near-total dominance are over. At Rio Tinto operations in Australia, Komatsu is the primary haul truck supplier for autonomous fleets. BHP runs mixed fleets with significant Komatsu presence. Vale, the Brazilian mining giant, operates Komatsu, Hitachi, and CAT trucks across its iron ore operations, with the Asian manufacturers holding strong positions at the Carajás mine in Brazil. Codelco in Chile has diversified its fleet across multiple manufacturers. Newmont Gold operations run a mix. The pattern is consistent. At the largest, most productive, most cost-sensitive mines in the world, CAT is no longer the default. CAT is one option among several. And in the specific area of autonomous haulage, Komatsu holds a lead that Caterpillar has been working to close, but has not yet matched in deployed fleet scale. Where CAT still wins is in markets where the dealer network advantage remains decisive. Smaller mining operations, mines in regions where Komatsu and Hitachi have not built dedicated service infrastructure, and operations that have long-standing fleet relationships with CAT dealers. In North America especially, CAT still holds a strong position. The Powder River Basin coal operations, gold mines in Nevada that have not gone autonomous, and Canadian oil sands operations still run significant CAT fleets. And in Africa, where mining is expanding rapidly but infrastructure is still developing, Caterpillar's global dealer network gives them a reach that the Asian manufacturers have not yet matched. There is also an argument to be made about the trucks themselves. Operators who have run both will tell you that CAT iron has a feel. The 793F in particular has a reputation among haul truck drivers as one of the best handling ultra-class trucks ever built. The ergonomics of the cab, the responsiveness of the controls, the way the truck manages a loaded descent on a wet haul road, these things matter to the people who spend 12 hours a day in that seat. But feelings do not write purchase orders. Procurement teams do. The mining division at Caterpillar was once the most profitable segment of the entire company. It was the business that drove the stock price during the commodity supercycles. It was the business that justified the premium investors placed on Caterpillar as a company. Now it is the most contested segment. Komatsu, Hitachi, and Hyundai are not going away. The autonomous systems that Komatsu deployed are only expanding. The cost per ton math has not shifted back in Caterpillar's favor. And every year that passes with Komatsu trucks running autonomously at the biggest mines in the world, the switching costs for those mines to come back to CAT grow higher. Caterpillar knows this. They are investing heavily in their own autonomous platform. They are developing new truck models. They are pushing hard on digital mine management and connected fleet technologies. They are signing partnership deals and acquiring software companies. The question is whether they can recapture ground that has already been ceded, or whether the next decade will see further erosion. Because the mining companies that switch to Komatsu for autonomous haulage are not switching back on a whim. Those contracts run for years. The infrastructure is built around a single platform, and every year that passes with those systems operating, the data advantages grow for the incumbent. The stakes are not abstract. The mining truck market is measured in billions of dollars annually. Every fleet replacement cycle at a major mine is a contract worth hundreds of millions. And right now, those contracts are being split in ways that would have been unthinkable 20 years ago when Caterpillar owned the pit. The iron from Illinois built the modern mining truck. They set the standard for what an ultra-class haul truck should be. The 793 and the 797 were the machines that made modern open-pit mining possible at the scale we see today. That legacy is real, and it is earned. But legacy does not win contracts. Cost per ton wins contracts. Autonomy wins contracts. Service at the mine site wins contracts. And right now, on the haul roads of the largest mines in the world, the competition is closer than it has ever been. The American giant built something extraordinary. Whether they can hold it is the question that will define the next chapter of this industry. If you made it this far, you understand what is at stake. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. We have more coming on the machines and the people that move the earth.